Thank you for joining us today on the Word of Encouragement here on this Thursday. Today I'd like to go to the book of Acts, chapter 17. He is on his second missionary journey and is now into Europe. And God had given him a great ministry in Macedonia. And yet there was real opposition there, especially among the Jews. And he had to leave. He left men there to nurture the churches that we know about at Philippi, and then Thessalonica, and then Berea. But then he goes to Athens to wait for them. And we read in verse 16, "Now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry." Now, I am sure that the other cities that he had been in Macedonia, prior to that, in Asia Minor, all of those cities, Ephesus and so forth, you would have said, wow, there's idolatry everywhere. But there was something about Athens, the seat of Greek culture, that was just demonically controlled. I mean, they had massive temples. The philosophers, of course, were not biblical in their thinking. There was just a pervasive sense of satanic worship in that city. And so he was stirred in his spirit when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. I think about this every so often as I am around situations that make me aware of our culture and how bad it's gotten. I just you grieve in your heart when you realize, wow, folks are bound by sin. There is all kinds of things that are leading them away from what would truly make their life what it ought to be. And then all the humanism and the Marxism, and then this New Age type, different aspects of it now that's gotten old, but new facets of it, Eastern religion, and then, of course, the major religions. All of this we see around us in our culture today. And we need to not react like we saw yesterday like John and James did, but instead have the heart of the Lord to be stirred, to be broken. And what's so exciting about this, as bad as that situation was, the Apostle Paul had the courage to go up on Mars Hill, overlooking or across from the Parthenon. I've been there, and it's quite the place to be. And people would be disputing and giving orations there all the time. And so he boldly goes up and gives the gospel. He'd already been giving it down in the center part, the agora of the city of Athens. And now he comes up, and people wanted to hear what he had to say. And he speaks of the resurrection. Tremendous message. And they say all kinds of things, but I love the ending of it. God did something. Verse 32, "And when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked, and others said, We will hear thee again of this matter. So Paul departed from among them, howbeit certain men clave unto him." You know, when we are bold with the gospel, there are always some that are touched. "And believed, among the which was Dionysius the Areopagite, and a woman named Damaris, and others with them." Now, scholars believe that this one man was a member of what we would consider the Supreme Court or the High Court of the land. We're not talking about just common people here. And here, in a very difficult situation, in the midst of paganism, the gospel goes forth, the resurrection is declared, and a couple of very key people get saved. Friends, in the midst of any cultural situation that is bad, and remember, every culture is bad. I was just in Williamsburg, Virginia, visiting Colonial Williamsburg again, and I was looking at the culture of that time, and it was not good. And we've got to understand, Satan is always working to go against the gospel. And so we need to be encouraged in our soul that God will use those that are faithful to him. And we need to be stirred, and then we need to speak. And believe me, it'll be greatly encouraging when you see God work in lives.